So in today's video, I'm going to look at Sydney Swans and what they're doing wrong in and around the contest. In my opinion, it's about balance. And a few clips I'm going to show you, they're getting it in close and they're dumping it. So the big bombs out of congestion, not giving the hands. First half of the first quarter, they were willing to give the hand back to the player that was facing their goals. And they were in the contest for a little bit. They got a lot of forward momentum. It was in their forward half quite a lot. They got a lot of stoppages. But from then on, it was just grab, kick it, dump it. And the way that Adelaide set up behind the ball with their +1 just brought them into the contest, and they weren't able to get through it. So I'm going to go through a few clips and just highlight some of those areas that they were struggling with, in particular, just grabbing it in the contest and bombing it, which played into Adelaide's hands. So let's get into the vision now. So there's a loose ball. It's in the half-back line for the Sydney Swans. And what I noticed in the game, even they were fumbly, so they weren't one touch, but also the ability to have balance. And I know that a lot of people speak about balance, but one of the things that they didn't have was this ability to work for one another. So when you have balance, you have spread, you're able to give the hands, but they were just happy to get it and bomb it. And they did this all night, Sydney. Early in the first half of the first quarter, they gave away. So they gave some really good hands away, a bit of width. They were able to spread the defence of Adelaide, but then they just got into this mode of just happy to kick it and get it out of the area, and not taking anything away from Adelaide. Their pressure from the front, and you can see here from behind, was outstanding for 4 quarters, and that's what forced Sydney to then get it, rush it, feel like they're under pressure, and just bomb it out of the contest. So Adelaide went it here, forward to centre, and they just bomb it inside their forward 50. You see Heaney here. So this is what Sydney like to set up. They like to switch the play. So he runs really hard in his D50, but you'll see when the contest comes to the ground. So there's Heaney here. So, and you see him pointing. So he wants to have the switch. He's free. He's worked extremely hard to get back in the D50. But once they bring it to ground, and that's the other thing too, look at the numbers going up. They had no, what we call balance as well. They had no one. They were always, their talls and their smalls were always going for the one up in the air. They had no balance. So when the ball hit the ground, the first players to get onto it were Adelaide Crows. So the ball comes in, and there's the ruckman. He's the one that's actually front and centre. But they're going out wide. So they're going towards the boundary. And it just eliminates any chance of a switch. And there's the bomb. Really good defensive play here, though. I think that might have been Neil Bullen. The ability to see it and push up and try and cover that switch. So this is quite interesting. So this is a stop play in Adelaide's forward 50. So you can see the numbers here. So you can see all the numbers here. So majority of the players are on this side of the ground. So as we call it, the skinny side, not the fat side. This is Keane here as a +1. He had an unreal game, but it was played into his hands because all Sydney wanted to do was bomb it. But you'll see how this unfolds. You have a left footer for Sydney. They win the ball and they come out. The other thing to note too is that Sydney won the clearances for the whole game. They smashed Adelaide in clearances, but because they had this mentality of just bombing out of the contest, they wonder why it ricocheted back so quickly, and wonder why they weren't able to have the ball in their forward half, because they were just happy to bomb it out of contest. So stop play here and tap, and they come through. So they're working really hard. They get for the ball, and then they give away. So I like that. That's Heaney there. They did this for the first 10 minutes of the first quarter, and that was it. But the issue you have here, and this is what we're talking about balance, is you've got a left footer looking up. So he wants to go this side of the ground. Left footer, you want to have representation. You want to have someone leading out that way. But he has no options but to kick it back into the corridor because no one was leading. So when I showed you the behind the goals, all the players for Sydney, all the forwards set up were over here. There was no one standing in the middle of the ground to provide that option if a left footer came out of the back line, to be able to give that lead. Because look at all this space that they could have let into with a left footer coming out of congestion. So when you set up as a forward structure, I'm not trying to tell Dean Cox and his coaching staff what to do, but when there's a stop play in your back line, you need to have balance. So when there's a stop play, you need to accommodate having balance. So if there's a right footer, you want to have someone leading that way, and in this situation, you want to have you want to be able to lead to a left footer, and this is what they didn't have. So the ball gets kicked out. Guess who marks it? Keane. But then now it brings into play Neil Bullen. Now Neil Bullen was near that stop play, so then they switched the play. So now it's an honesty system. Who is willing to work harder to go across the other side? So Neil Bullen's worked, and so has Rochelle. So they've worked away from that contest. So the ability to spread, knowing the ball is out of their area, but then provide an option when they know they have a +1. And then he cuts back inside. Great cut. That's a great cut. And now look at with the space for Fogarty to lead into. So a really good set play, but it might not have happened if down the field the forwards for Sydney had a structure in place to cover a right footer coming out and a left footer coming out, or a left footer coming out of the stop play. So it's a ball up inside Adelaide forward 50, and this really summed up where Sydney are at the moment. So the ball gets tapped. It's a loose ball. They work really hard, and then there's confusion between Bias and Lloyd. It's like, who's going to get it? Am I blocking? Are you going for it? So a bit of confusion. They're trying to get balance, but it wasn't there. And then it sort of bubbles around, and then Warner just gets it, kicks it out, rush kick. And the Crows just had themselves set up behind the ball extremely well. So previous when they kicked it out, I think McCartan kicked it out and Peatling marked it, went back inside forward 50, and this results in a goal. So down the field, they just didn't around the source. They didn't have balance. They weren't working hard for one another to give the handball release and then be able to exit that area. They were just happy to bomb it. And then down the field, they had no balance set up with their forwards. So another loose ball deep inside forward 50 for Adelaide. You have the play here calling for the ball, but just does a U-turn on him. Then handballs into congestion again. So handballing to a player that has their back to goal, and then Bias just turns around. No other options. Bang. And then dumps on the foot. Another turnover inside their forward half. So remember listening to the commentators saying, oh, there's another rush kick. There's another rush kick. No disrespect to Adelaide, because their pressure forward and behind to press Sydney was outstanding. So it forced a lot of these dump kicks. But this is still in the first quarter. So still in the first quarter, but this goes really quick. But this is just the panic of what the pressure. So there's Neil Bullen, outstanding with his pressure. He's always been like that. Was with Melbourne as well. But just the ability to come across and put a hand on. But what I'm saying with balance, great to give the hands away, but this player here has to use his feet. Get going. Because when you pan out, look how much space there is to take. So use your legs, power through that tackle, and get some momentum. Get it out of your zone. They're just happy to bomb it out of their area. And that goes out in the full. So the ball gets, this is the start of the second quarter, so the ball gets kicked into, this is Adelaide's forward half. So the ball gets kicked in, and Heaney just does it. Tremendous work here. He just spread really hard from the centre bounce. So the ball bumbles around, still working congestion. Heaney works really hard here. So body over the line, picks it up, But what Bias needs to do here is actually come back a little bit and offer support for a hand pass. He's just stuck. Or come across here in his vision to support him. Just gets out of his vision, so he's not in a position to hand pass. And then all Heaney can do is get on the boot, kick it out, and Malera marks it, another turnover. So they just were getting sucked into the contest and there was no balance whatsoever. So I just wanted to highlight this one. So this is about having balance. So this is a stop play inside Adelaide's forward 50. And Soligo's the one that ends up kicking it. And you can see here how much space he's in. But the key is here, this player gets sucked into the contest. Understand sometimes when you've got to go, but then you've got to have, if he's going to go, you need to then have another layer come. And you see in this footage, this player here is pointing towards the free player in Soligo. So it's like, who's on him? Who's picking him up? So I reckon in this situation, this player here has to turn their head, and it's in Adelaide's forward half, so you've got to be, and touch and feel. Close this gap. This gap is too big. So as it plays out, this is about having balance. So they're all gravitating towards the ball. This is what we're saying about balance. So look how many numbers are around Tex Walker. So all he has to do is get his arms free, hand pass off, and there's a shot on goal. That's exactly what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on one Tex Walker. So this is about balance. So you don't all have to rush and go. This player should be here. Touch and feel. Get back, hold back, give your teammate an opportunity to tackle, but close the gap on the receiver. And they didn't have this. They gravitated all to the ball at once. And that's exactly what happens. All gravitate. Tex Walker gets his arms free. Bang. Goal. So that was what happened with Sydney. So message today is balance. They had no balance whatsoever. So Sydney's going right of screen. It's the same thing. It's just no balance. They run into each other. There wasn't any spread. So the ball drops down. Great pickup from Warner. But he's got no handball release. Probably here, you would think. But then he tries to go really short with his hand pass here. And then you've got Lloyd coming back here. I think it's Lloyd for a handball receive. And then you had Bias just out here. But they were just happy. And this is really good pressure from, once again, from Adelaide. But they were just happy just to bomb it on the boot. And then you've got two players standing here waiting for the handball receive. So that's why it played into Adelaide's hand. And then the ability of players like Neil Bullen to spread on the 45, to get out of the congestion, but also work away from the contest. And it just, they had no answer for it whatsoever, Sydney. So this is where they need to tidy up. Not only the ability to use the hands in congestion, but also to have that structure up forward. So as a stop play inside forward 50 for Adelaide once again, and ball drops, and then Grundy is just happy to get on the boot. And then you've got one of the best rebound players in the game just sitting there. He should be working across, calling for the ball, being really proactive. But they were just happy just to go bang, get on the boot. And then it just gives time for Adelaide to set up the structure from behind. I know that the commentators were talking about that a lot. Give him time and space to set up, be able to reorganise. And it just felt like there was no movement from Sydney, but it's because of this dump kicking. Look how free he is there. You give him the ball, no one's going to catch him. They just didn't give him a chance to actually get the ball in their hands. The same again. So Adelaide's going this way. This results in a goal inside forward 50. Rampy just give the hands. He's a left footer going away from his goal. Great chase here from Neil Bullen, but you could eliminate this forced kick by just giving the hands. And there's a lot of width there. But he prefers to go around on his left foot. And then another intercept mark. Then Hinge takes this, kicks it inside forward 50 to Thilthorpe, another goal. So they were happy just to bomb it get on the boot and just bomb it out of the area instead of actually using their hands, using their legs, driving forward. And then I just thought I'd put this in. This is Adelaide, so this shows the difference here. This is Dawson, but the ability to get the ball in congestion, hands out. So I know it's a little bit of a fumble, but they're working for one another, not panicking. So what Sydney would do in this situation, when Curtin gets the ball, they just bomb it out of the area. But it's a great handball here. But then the ability to then look up. Okay, I'm going to take space. Protection from the ruck. Really good. So there wasn't enough of that from Sydney. Sydney were just happy to bomb it, and they weren't willing to give their hands to give and then peel off and have protection for their teammates. So you can see in those videos there, those clips I just showed you, and in particular showed the last one there of Adelaide, the ability to work for one another. So once they give the hand pass, give a block. There was many times, even when Smith kicked that goal, Rankin put on a great block to give him an opportunity to have a set shot. So there was just no work for one another for Sydney. So they've got to get back to their core DNA, which is to give their hands, get some blocks, be able to spread, but able to use the ball instead of just bombing it because it played in their hands, and Sydney's backs had no time to set up because they worked so hard to get the ball back. Then they just bomb it out of the contest, and then it's back inside their D50 again. So they just had no opportunity to take a breather. Okay, so let's go to the whiteboard, and I'll show you a drill that you can use to actually create the little in tight, close, but also the ability to get the hands out and then be able to spread. All right, so one of the drills you can do, it's almost like lane work or off the fence, as they call it. So the square is the coach. So depending on how many numbers you have, the square is the coach, right? So then you have players circle, who's getting the ball. Then you have a defender behind him or her, and then you have another circle, which is a receiver. So you have there. So how the drill works is the square, coach or player, rolls the ball in this motion. So rolls the ball on the ground in front of the player who has a defender. All right, so we want to create pressure. So coach or player rolls it out on the ground. This player goes. So we're teaching this player with a little bit of heat from behind to pick up the ball, be clean. What we're teaching this player has to also go, but this player has to run aggressively quite hard to actually get front and center. So get in the vision of this player. So what we're trying to create, if you want to set it up, is that you can do it on the wing no matter where you are. But what we're trying to create is this player is running away from their goal. This player is working hard to then be able to get their body in front and line of vision of this player to be facing their goal. So then you'd be able to have the release kick. And so the responsibility of the defender is to put pressure, obviously token pressure on the player that's picking the ball up, but then be able to try and come off. So then it becomes a 2-on-1 situation. So depending on how far you roll it out, they could create a 2-on-1, and then obviously these two players here, circles, have to get past this player here. So it's a really good drill, one, to teach this player with a little bit of heat to pick up the ball clean, and secondly, this player here to get around, get in their vision, use the voice, be able to then get the handball receive. So there you go. So hopefully you get a little bit of an education out of what Sydney is doing at the moment. I don't like the way they're playing. It's too predictable. They need to get back to their strengths. They've got Warner, Heaney, Lloyd uses the ball well, Rampy uses the ball well, obviously Blakey off the half-back line. So a lot of those footages that I showed you on the half-back line just played in their hands, and that's why Keane he was a +1. They rolled up their half forwards. They were able to create great pressure from Adelaide Crows, but you can see there's opportunities there where Sydney could have used the ball a bit better, got through that congestion, and be able to then get to their forwards. But then their forwards need to have a bit more structure as well. Hopefully you got a little bit out of that. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all the support so far from my YouTube channel.